You're listening to WDBM East Lansing Impact 89 FM. My name is Elise, joined today here by Molly and very special guest Sondre Lerche. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. Yeah, I think to me that record was about wanting to make something that didn't have any limitations. No limitations in time or ideally in budget. And I sort of it ended up being, you know, an album that didn't have any limitations in terms of what I wanted to explore or styles or sounds or anything like that. When I see the album now and I have a little bit of distance, I also realize it's also an album that sort of celebrates the highs and lows of trying to make music and trying to write songs and being in the sort of life that I've ended up having as a singer-songwriter. It is a very distinct music town. It's just growing up there. I can only speak for myself, but I grew up around a lot of musicians. My sister worked in clubs, and we played in a band together, and I would be allowed to play clubs since I was 13, 14 years old. I wasn't allowed in, but she would sort of vouch for me. So being around the scene at that time was really inspiring, because a lot of the bands that I grew up listening to were just local bands that I took a liking to, you know. For one, I really like living a place where, and I think that's the reason I moved to New York, was I wanted to live a place where I felt smaller in a way, because Norway is a small country, and I was really fortunate to make it, you know, to do pretty well really fast, but I was really young, and the sort of attention that comes with it is really flattering and exciting, but at the same time it's a bit, freaks you out a bit.
Yeah. So
I felt the need to sort of get away from that and just be some guy sitting in an apartment trying to write a song, you know? Which is harder, I guess, and a bit, you know, frustrating at times, but I think it's helped me sort of keep the creative process sort of pure, you know? I always started out writing in English, even when I didn't have a clue what I was saying. Just because the music I listened to was mostly in English, and it was sort of, I didn't have any heroes who sang in Norwegian. You know, that was sort of, there was nobody who sang about any stuff that I cared about, or did any music that I cared about. So I just instinctively went for that, and of course when you're 8 years old or 10 years old, it's going to be very limited. Although in Norway, you know, you start learning English pretty early on.
Yes.
But when I see some of my songs from back then, it's pretty funny. And also, of course, you know, when my first record came out, I was still only, you know, those were songs I wrote when I was 16, 17 years old. So obviously there's songs, there's stuff in those songs that I wonder sometimes, what am I trying to say, or what did I think I was trying to say, you know, because there's what I liked, I remember at the time, what I liked about also writing songs in a second language was the fact that you take some liberties with the language that maybe you wouldn't if you knew, you know, if it was your mother tongue. So I sort of liked that, and when I look at some happy accidents sort of in those lyrics that you know, some of the songs I still play, and I sort of like it. I thought, wow, that's actually cool, and you wouldn't think to say it that way if you were American or English. I like the awareness that I've sort of had from touring more and more in the States, because you realize that even these songs that you were just playing around with words, you realize that it actually means something to people here. People listen. There's no translation. It's just right in your face, sort of.
Right.
And that has made me challenge myself more when I write lyrics now. It's more, I try to really respect that, you know, and try to make the most of it. And that's Heartbeat Radio to me is very much about that. Trying to really challenge yourself in that department, and it's been really exciting. I get so confused because people ask me, like, how do you actually pronounce it? Or how do you want me to say it? And, like, how I actually pronounce it is not something I expect from anyone, because it's a weird, weird sounds. Weird Norwegian local, like, Bergen sounds, People in Norway would pronounce it very different depending on where you are in the country. So I just get confused. I hear a lot of different ones, and they sort of amuse me. But I never can remember. But I get a lot of Sandra, or I think somebody once wrote Cassandra even. They were very confused, I guess, more so than I. Then there's Lerche in France. Which sounds very, very elegant. I guess I should have gone for that, but it's too late now anyway.
Exactly.
All right. Hey, this is Sondre Lerche. You're listening to Impact 89 FM
DBM.
WDBM.
It's all right.
I'm going to do it again. WDBM. Man, it's a bit tricky. Hey, this is Sondre Lerche. You're listening to Impact 89 FM WDBM. Or I could say, hey, this is Sondre Lerche on WDBM 89 FM. Impact. Music matters. You can just clip it and put it together and make it Frankenstein. Is that cool? Super.